Tired of getting hit by the fried liver attack? In this video, you'll learn quick, effective tips to defend confidently and flip the pressure back on your opponent. Get ready to sharpen your defenses and level up your game. The fried liver attack begins with pawn to a4, pawn to a5, knight to f3, knight to c6, and bishop to c4, entering the Italian game. After knight to f6, white jumps in with knight to g5, threatening the classic fried liver. In earlier videos, we covered the pawn to d5 defense and explained why knight takes d5 fails, because knight takes f7 lets white attack with ease. To counter this, we introduce the traxler counterattack with bishop to c5. It looks like a blunder, since white can play knight takes f7, forking the queen and rook. But that's exactly the trap. Black hits back immediately with bishop takes f2, checking the king. We then explore two major branches. When white captures the bishop with king takes f2. When white declines and plays king to f1. In the capture line, black responds with knight takes e4, giving check. White has 6 legal king moves, 4 lose quickly, and the remaining 2 are extremely difficult to handle. In the first variation, king to f3 is played. This is the only line where black doesn't aim for queen to h4. Here black simply continues with queen to f6, keeping the pressure high. In this position, white is forced to capture the knight, and this drives the king even farther into the center. Black continues with queen to f4, giving check. The king must retreat to d3, because moving to d5 would allow black to deliver an immediate checkmate. After king to d3, black plays queen to d4, checking again. The king has only one legal move, returning to e2. Now black simply captures the bishop, and after white blocks, black captures the knight as well. This sequence is a key pattern in the traxler counterattack. Whenever the white king chooses certain squares, black often wins material by taking the bishop with check and then picking up the knight. In this final position, black has recovered both sacrifice pieces and is actually a pawn ahead. The resulting position is far easier for black, with clear attacking options such as knight to d4 check, advancing the central pawn, developing the bishop, and even castling. Meanwhile, white can no longer castle since the king has already moved. Now, returning to the main line, the second important option for white is king to e1. Against this, black plays queen to h4. This move is essential in almost every traxler variation except the very first one we examined. The idea is simple but powerful. Black threatens checkmate on f2, and if black later moves the knight, the queen will attack both the bishop and the exposed knight on g5, creating multiple tactical problems for white. In this position, white must play pawn to g3 to block the check. Black responds with knight takes g3, another key tactical theme in the traxler. The queen now attacks the bishop, the knight attacks the rook, and black is also threatening a discovered check. White is forced to recapture the knight, leaving the rook undefended, and black plays queen takes h1, achieving a clearly winning position. The third major line occurs when white plays king to f1. Black again continues with queen to h4, threatening immediate checkmate on f2. If white tries to defend with queen to e2 or queen to f3, black simply plays knight to d4, adding another attacker and creating a mate threat on the next move. If white tries to stop the attack with pawn to g3, black repeats the familiar idea, capturing on g3 with check. After white recaptures the knight, black captures the rook with check, winning decisive material. Because of these problems, white's best try is queen to e1, guarding the f2 square. But black's plan stays the same, knight to g3 check, whether or not the pawn was pushed. If white captures with the pawn, black simply takes the rook. If white captures with the queen, black takes the bishop with check, and after the pawn advances, black captures again. Just like in the earlier line, black regains all sacrifice material and finishes the sequence a pawn ahead with a strong initiative. Now let's examine the 2 king moves for white that don't lose immediately. 1. King to g1. After king to g1, black once again plays the essential move queen to h4, the key idea in almost every traxler line. White must defend against the checkmate threat on f2, so pawn to g3 is forced. Black captures with knight takes g3, and after pawn takes g3, the position is different from earlier because the king on g1 protects the rook, and black cannot take the bishop. It wouldn't be check. Instead, black plays queen takes g3 check, hitting the center. The white king is forced back to f1, and now black brings in another critical idea, rook to f8. This both removes the rook from danger and pins the knight on f7 to the king. Although computers evaluate the position as roughly equal, in practice white's position is extremely difficult. Black's plans are simple. Push pawn to d5, attacking the bishop free the path for bishop to h3 check, or bishop to g4, hitting the queen block the white bishop's diagonal. Prepare to eventually take the knight on f7. White, meanwhile, has a disorganized position and a very exposed king, making defensive play challenging. The second non-losing move is king to e3, which looks unnatural because the king walks even further into the center. But tactically, it keeps white alive for the moment. Black continues with queen to h4, maintaining threats of queen to f2 checkmate and queen to f4. White can defend both by playing pawn to g3. Black captures on g3 again, and after pawn captures, black must know the key follow-up, queen to a d4 check. If white plays king to e2, black simply takes the bishop, then captures the knight, just like in earlier variations, leaving black with a winning position. Therefore, white must slide the king to the left with king to f3, entering yet another sharp and uncomfortable position. These two king moves avoid immediate defeat, but the resulting positions are extremely dangerous and very difficult for white to defend accurately. From this position, black has a powerful and surprising move, castling kingside. It may look illegal at first, but it's completely valid. Neither f8 nor g8 is attacked, so castling is allowed. It also looks risky, since the knight could seem to give double checks on h6 or create discovered checks, but white cannot move the knight at all. The rook on f8 pins it directly to the king, so any knight move is illegal. Even though engines call the position equal, it's very difficult for white to play. Black's ideas are simple and dangerous. The queen targets the bishop pawn to d5, hits the bishop, and removes protection from the knight on f7. After pawn to d5, the bishop can jump out to g4 with check, winning the queen on d1. At this stage, we've covered 5 king moves. The sixth and final variation, and the most entertaining one, is king to e2. In this final variation, black begins with knight to d4, giving check and forcing the white king to move forward. If white tries to retreat with king to f1, black simply returns to the familiar setup with queen to h4, just as in earlier lines. But after king to e3, black again plays queen to h4, keeping all the same threats alive on f2 and f4. If white becomes ambitious and plays knight takes rook on h8, the position immediately turns against him. In fact, black has a forced mate in 7 moves. It's a beautiful, precise sequence worth examining closely. The combination begins with queen to f4, giving check and driving the king to d3. Here, black ignores the chance to win the queen with knight to f2 because the mating pattern is far stronger. Instead, black plays knight to c5, checking again. The white king has only one legal escape square, king to c3. Now, black sacrifices the second knight with knight to b4, another forcing check. If white captures the knight with the bishop, black immediately plays queen to d4, delivering checkmate. Therefore, white must continue forward with king to b4. Black now pushes pawn to a5, checking once more. White has 2 captures available. If king takes the knight on c5, black responds with pawn to b6 check, and after king takes the remaining knight, bishop to d7 delivers checkmate. If king takes the knight on b5, black pushes pawn to c6 with check. Should white capture that pawn, queen to d4 follows as checkmate, so the king must move up to b6. Black continues the attack with knight to a4, another forcing check. The king is driven to c7, and here the final, stunning move appears. Black delivers checkmate with pawn to e4. Finishing a long combination with a pawn mate is extremely rare, which makes this entire forced line one of the most striking and memorable sequences in the traxler counterattack. Thanks for watching. If you found this video as helpful, then like and subscribe. See you in the next one.